Today is just a normal Saturday for our family, but we're going to keep track of every dollar we spend. In many American cities, $20 might barely cover lunch for one person. Yet here, in our small town in China, that same $20 will need to cover food, shopping, and an entire day of life for our family of 4. So let's see where the money goes, what it can actually buy, and whether there's anything left by the end of the day. Our first stop today isn't the market, it's breakfast. Like many families in China, we don't always cook breakfast at home. Small breakfast shops are everywhere, and they're usually quick, convenient, and affordable. Around here, breakfast is usually based on noodles rather than bread. This morning, we ordered 3 dishes for the 4 of us: a bowl of zhajiang noodles, a plate of mixed rice noodles, and a bowl of soup noodles. That was more than enough for our family. Looking at the food on the table, how much do you think all of this cost? The total came to 24 yuan. That's about $3.30 for all 4 of us. Honestly, prices like this are one reason many families here don't mind eating breakfast outside. It's quick, convenient, and usually doesn't cost very much. Of course, this is only the first meal of the day. We still need to buy food for lunch and dinner, and that's where most of today's budget will probably go. Instead of going to a traditional market today, we decided to do our shopping at a large supermarket. Places like this have become very common across China, even in smaller cities and towns. For many families, it's one of the easiest ways to buy everything they need in one trip. As soon as we walked into the supermarket, the kids spotted the pizza counter. And honestly, that wasn't much of a surprise. No matter where we go, they always seem to find the food they like first. We ended up buying 2 slices of pizza for 15.8 yuan. That's about $2. It wasn't part of the original plan, but sometimes a small treat is worth it. Besides, keeping 2 children happy might be one of the most important parts of managing a family budget. The budget was already starting to shrink, but our shopping had only just begun. This is winter melon. We didn't buy a whole winter melon. That would have been far more than our family needed. Instead, we bought a small piece. That's actually pretty common here. Many supermarkets and markets in China sell vegetables in smaller portions, so families can buy only what they need. Right next to the winter melon, we found something much more interesting: a chili pepper that was longer than my child's hand. Moments like this are one reason I enjoy shopping with my children. Even something as ordinary as buying vegetables can suddenly become entertaining. After that, we picked up some broccoli and garlic shoots. Nothing fancy, just a few vegetables that often end up on our dinner table. By now, most of the vegetables were taken care of. The shopping cart was slowly getting fuller, and so was the bill we hadn't seen yet. But vegetables were only part of the plan. We still needed one of the most important ingredients for today's meals. Just when we thought we were finished with the vegetables, something else caught our attention. 4 red dragon fruits for 10 yuan. That's a deal that's hard to ignore. Fruit prices can vary a lot throughout the year, but offers like this usually don't last very long. So into the shopping cart they went. As we passed the prepared food section, we picked up some spicy river snails. They weren't exactly cheap, so we only bought a small portion. Back home, we'll stir-fry them with the chili peppers and garlic shoots we bought earlier. That should make a pretty good dish. By now, our shopping cart was getting fuller, but there was still one important thing left to buy. Next came the meat section. One thing I like about many supermarkets here is that you don't always have to buy large portions. Most of the pork is already packed in small portions, making it easy to buy exactly what you need. We picked up a small pack of pork for 5.6 yuan and 2 ribs for another 15 yuan. For today's meals, that was more than enough. We also stopped by the seafood section for a quick look. There were plenty of options, but none of them made it into our cart today. The kids were far more interested in looking at the fish than buying them. As we continued through the supermarket, we stopped by the dessert section. There, we picked up a packet of jelly powder. It doesn't look like much now, but after mixing it with water and letting it cool, it turns into a simple dessert that's especially popular during the summer. The kids enjoy it, and it's an easy treat to make at home. Just when we thought our shopping was almost finished, something else caught the kids' attention. A small electric fan. It wasn't on our shopping list. In fact, we hadn't planned to buy one at all. But after standing there looking at it for a while, it somehow found its way into our cart. I suppose that's how family shopping trips usually work. You go in for groceries and somehow come home with a few extra things. With that, our cart was finally full. Breakfast, vegetables, fruit, meat, snacks, dessert, and now even a fan. It was finally time to find out how much our ordinary Saturday was really going to cost. By the time we finally reached the checkout, our shopping cart didn't look particularly full. But once everything was added together, the total came to 101.6 yuan. Combined with the 24 yuan we spent on breakfast earlier, we had already spent 125.6 yuan. That left us with less than 10 yuan for the rest of the day. Suddenly, our $20 budget didn't feel nearly as comfortable as it did this morning. Back at home, it was finally time to unpack everything we had bought. Looking at it all spread across the table, it felt like a lot more than what we had seen in the shopping cart. Vegetables, fruit, meat, snacks, dessert ingredients, and a few unexpected extras. Not bad for a Saturday shopping trip. Before we started making lunch, there was one thing we wanted to prepare first: the jelly powder we bought at the supermarket. It doesn't take long to make, but it does need a few hours in the refrigerator. So the earlier we make it, the better. By the time lunch and dinner are finished, it should be ready to eat. With that taken care of, it was finally time to start cooking lunch. Like many home-cooked meals, most of the work happens before the cooking even begins. Washing vegetables, cutting meat, and getting everything ready. It's not the most exciting part of the process, but it's part of everyday life. There's something relaxing about this part. No rush, just taking our time and getting ready for the meal. With everything prepared, it was finally time to start cooking. Most of the ingredients came from this morning's shopping trip. Nothing complicated, just a few simple dishes for lunch. One of today's dishes is fried pork ribs. We only bought 2 ribs, but that's enough for our family. After a little seasoning, it's time to start frying. The smell alone makes it worth the effort. Remember the chili peppers and garlic shoots we bought earlier? This is what they're for. We only bought a small portion of the river snails, just enough to add another dish to the table. The rest of the meal is even simpler. Fresh vegetables, a little pork, and a few basic seasonings. Looking at the table now, it already feels like a proper family meal. And just like that, lunch was ready. After a busy morning, It was finally time to sit down and eat together. For me, this is probably the best part of the day. No shopping, no cooking, just everyone around the same table. The food doesn't have to be perfect. What matters is having everyone together. We still had the rest of the day ahead of us, but for now, lunch was all we needed. Before we knew it, it was already afternoon, so we spent some time at a nearby park. Honestly, our weekends are usually pretty simple. Just getting outside, enjoying the fresh air, and letting the kids have fun. Of course, it didn't take long before the kids spotted something they wanted. A grilled sausage stand. Some things seem to be universal no matter where you live. 5 yuan later, another part of today's budget was gone. But judging by the smiles, it was probably worth it. After spending some time at the park, we started heading home, at least that was the plan. Then one of the kids brought up an idea, KFC. Considering how much of our budget was already gone, it probably wasn't the best suggestion. But once children start talking about fried chicken, the conversation is usually far from over. In the end, we gave in. So instead of heading straight home, we made one more stop, KFC. By this point, it had already become our dinner. Since my wife was still at home, we decided to take the food back and eat together. Once everything was ordered, the total came to 74.8 yuan. I suddenly had a bad feeling. I think we've probably gone over our $20 budget. With our food ready, it was finally time to head home. The kids were already thinking about dinner, and after a long day out, so was I. Before we started eating, there was one more thing waiting for us. In the refrigerator, the jelly dessert we made earlier. By now, it was finally ready. Cold jelly and hot fried chicken. Might sound like a strange combination, but honestly, it tasted pretty good. The kids had been waiting for this all afternoon, and judging by their reactions, it was worth the wait. And finally, it was time to eat. Looking back, it had been a surprisingly busy day. Breakfast, shopping, cooking, the park, and now dinner. I think the kids would say this was the best part of the day. So, was $20 enough? Not this time. Breakfast cost us 24 yuan. The supermarket came to 101.6 yuan. The sausage at the park was another 5 yuan. And dinner at KFC added 74.8 yuan. That brings the total to 205.4 yuan, about $31. We definitely went over budget. But honestly, I wouldn't change much. We ate well. The kids had fun. And we spent the whole day together. For me, that's what really matters.